Yo peeps! So about a year ago, wow, feels like 10 years ago, we were on a plane heading to our US offices in New York and eventually to LA. That's basically the time when I decided it would probably be a good idea to start to vlog. The reason we did that was multiple actually. I'd been working with content production for a very long time, but never in front of the camera, always behind the cameras, always doing the numbers, always connecting the dots, but never actually understanding the craft, understanding the pain points. And so I very much wanted to get in the shoes of our customers, in the shoes of creators. I thought it would be fun, but I had no idea that it would be this fun. It's such a great craft, but it's also so difficult. I'm nowhere near mastering it. And we thought that since it's almost been a year now, we do like this 1-year anniversary video where we share some of our accomplishments, some of the learnings, and some of the challenges. Here we go. So first thing, you need to dare to be real. Even though I'm slowly getting used to being on camera, the limelight isn't something that I've wanted to be in. It takes some getting used to and you need to practice. Mirror, mirror, on the wall! It's about taking a risk. And ultimately, it's about being yourself in that risk. Because if you're not yourself, it's not going to fly anyway. And vlogging is uncomfortable in two ways. One, it can be really heavy. The camera is physically tough to carry around like this. But two, it can be uncomfortable socially as well. Pulling out a camera, pointing it in your own face when there are other people around is socially awkward. That shit's hard, but you need to push through. Shut up, it's f***ing freezing. Second thing you need to do is find the time for it. Just because an episode is gonna be 7 minutes, it's not gonna take 7 minutes to film it, rather 7 hours. I think the secret is in making sure that you enjoy it and so that it's fun. Because if it's fun, you will find the time for it. You will incorporate it in your work, and also you might even be quite good at it if you enjoy it.
Is it the first time you're flying a drone?
Yep.
Is it the last time you're flying a drone?
Nope. Okay, so you need to know your gear. Doesn't matter if you're shooting with a smartphone or a fancy camera like we happen to be shooting with here today. But knowing your gear is key, because that means you can focus on the story. And at the end of the day, that's what matters. That's the important stuff. Speaking of gears though, this is an ND filter. I wouldn't leave home without it. This is an amazing piece of equipment. Because what this does is that you can shoot a field and you have an aperture in your head at the same time.
You need to know your gear.
A wide aperture and shoot with a shallow depth of field. I'll link to somebody who can explain in more depth how the ND filters work. But besides that, I just recommend remember to press record and do many, many takes. So learn and get inspired by others. I can't emphasize this enough. I've had the great fortune to work with somebody who really knows the ropes, who's been able to teach me in real life. Somebody who's helped me get out the door and get sort of both behind and in front of the camera. That's not always the case, but there are so many other ways to get inspired. The community out there of online creators is such a great vibe. They're so accommodating, they're so generous. So just look to stuff that inspires you. For me, obviously it's music, that's where I start. Listening to great music, things happen in my head and away we go. But whatever floats your boat, lean into that. What can you bring to the table? That's a pretty good question to ask yourself. I know that I did. Before we launched Building Epidemic, I very much looked to myself and said, so what do I know? What can I bring to the table? And it was quite clear for me that there are tons of things where I'm extremely mediocre, but there are a few things that I'm fairly good at. And I believe that one of them is building companies. And hopefully we can help inspire you in building your own companies, building your own channels, by sharing our learnings, by sharing our mistakes. So understand what you're good at, understand what you bring to the table. Let's talk about feedback, because it's one of the best things out there. 15 years ago, when I was dabbling in TV production, there was no feedback. There was a viewer and there was content. That was it. I look at vlogging today, and one of the things that excites me the most is all the feedback. I get access to data in real time. I can see where people drop off, where they get excited, why they share things, and why they don't share things. That's a gift. You should all be leaning into the feedback, because if you take that on, it makes your story more interesting, it makes it more compelling, and ultimately you're trying to connect with an audience. Well, you have to listen to that audience. It's the best thing that I can recommend you to do. So lean into feedback, don't be afraid of it. Please reach out to us. Hear from all of you. I want your advice. So please hit me up in the comments below and share your greatest tips. So in closing, a couple of reflections. First one, I'm such a frigging amateur. I just tried sharing some tips of them. I've stumbled across them. They've been hard learnings.
You need to know your gear.
They've typically come from Nalle, who you don't get to see in camera. But together we've made a huge amount of learnings, and I'm very, very grateful for that. I'm so impressed by the community. Vlogging, creating content with a regular cadence is hard. It's really, really hard, and you're so good at it. One day, that's where I want to be. So please stay creative, please stay inspired. I promise you that we're going to be doing our part as much as we can by supplying you with great music to get you going, to get the creativity flowing. Let's make great content, and now let's go soundtrack the world.
Oscar, what do you like about these long flights?
For me, it's super valuable that I get a ton of hours in a row without being interrupted. So you get tons of work done. It can be super duper productive.